So my piece in this book is focused on anarchist economics, the history of anarchist economics, and with the objective of trying to draw out lessons, ideas from the experiments and philosophy and history of anarchism to kind of posit some idea of what that might look like for the future. And of course, this has been attempted many times, and I'm just doing something that's 5,000 words long in the book, and which obviously many books have been written about, and is impossible to write about in any singular way, one person writing about it, one book, one essay, much less being able to talk about it in 15 minutes. So the task at hand is actually impossible. And so what all that allows me to do is just give you an idea of the orientation that I tried to apply in thinking about these things. And I tried to think about them a bit differently than I'd been familiar with in seeing them done in the past, or ways that I've seen people thinking about them today. So, for example, anarchist economics, or some conception of anarchist economics, is limited in many ways, in that we don't want to create a model to force the world into in a very crude way. We want to try to learn things from the past and think of new ways to do things ourselves that can learn from the real world, and thinking about and then adapt our models, adapt our experiments, adapt our ideas to those methods. And so the one problem to illustrate the limitations is classical anarchist economics in many ways did not have answers for problems today, simply because the problems didn't exist in the late 19th century or the early 20th century. For example, carbon emissions. The classical anarchist economics does not really have any way, technical way, thought-out way, around dealing with modern-day problems. And so there's limitations to the discussion already, and these pose problems that we all have to kind of grapple with for what a future anarchist economy might deal with, how it might deal with these contemporary problems. So, with that in mind, the reason to consider these things right now and to present alternatives, to present past experiments as lived examples and inspiration that we can draw from, to show that yes, another world is possible, anti-authoritarian economy is possible, anti-authoritarian world is possible, is to inspire and engage the broader society. Not so much the people in this room or at this conference itself, at least for me. And by that I mean drawing from Francisco Freire and the Freire schools in pre-Spanish Civil War era, trying to educate and instill an anarchist ethos to imbibe a spirit of rebellion and interest in transforming society and controlling their own lives in industry, in community, and across society. And with that in mind, Derek mentioned Greece. The anti-authoritarian movement there is very much grappling with this problem in today's world around economic crisis and trying to present an applicable, feasible alternative to the broader society. Maybe not one, maybe it's many. And their version of doing this these days is through massive public education and festivals, international anti-authoritarian festivals, which last days and a week, and they do this nationally and internationally, and where they consider these types of discussions and have a dialogue with the broader society about them. And so in that sense, and although our society is very different here in North America, I do think that it's very much a core important discussion that we need to be having amongst ourselves, as well as so that we can answer the hard question when people ask about what it is we want to offer that's an alternative. And this is in the social anarchist tradition of mass movement building, from my perspective. We want to have something that inspires people to engage with, so that and they can participate in, and that we can organize for the long run and make short interim strategic choices that lead up to that. And so with that in mind, how the hell do you deal with the vast quantity of anarchist history and philosophy? How do you whittle it down in some type of way that makes sense? And I don't necessarily have the answer to that, but I tried to kind of develop an orientation. And just to kind of like bring it down into this room, everybody in this room has an idea about anarchism, has prefigurative experience and experiment, has some conception about what anarchism is and some hope of what they want from it. And if we were to take all these ideas and experience in this room and put it into a big pool of data, then we need to somehow be able to filter through that data. And the way to do that I like to do, and actually, you know, if I had more time, my style is more interactive, and I would be going through this process in a very interactive and participatory way, talking about how talking about filters that you would apply to this pool, and we would be discussing them. But since my time is limited, I'm just going to kind of like go through what filters that I apply. So, one application of this is just drawing from traditional radical left and anarchist values, and so another way is to define what is an economy, and by doing these things, it's not to exclude other considerations as less important. For example, you know, gender and sexuality, race, and political structures and decision making. It's just to say we want to focus on anarchist ideas and experience insofar as it relates to economics specifically. These other questions are equally important, and we have to engage in those discussions as well. They're obviously overlapping, but how do we begin to engage with anarchist economics? So anarchist economics, one of the filters that I applied for it is just trying to define an economy as a system of production and consumption for the material means of life, and then beyond that, values. And the values that I apply are autonomy. That would be in the self-conscious creation of society's institutions rather than other people creating them for us, or believe that they're the product of the best possible outcome of history, or evolution, or delivered by some divine beings. So it's the self-conscious creation of society's institutions is autonomy. Classlessness, meaning that people's say and claim to the social economic product is somehow fair and equitable, and that the society, the economic institutions produce and reproduce classless outcomes in both division of labor in society as well as the claim to the social product. Another value that I used for a filter is self-management. Decision-making, say, in proportion to the degree that somebody is affected. That's how self-management would be defined by this filter. And another filter would be solidarity and mutual aid, caring for one another, compassion, helping comrades out, helping brothers and sisters out, helping people as human beings out, and without self-interest that exists under capitalism, or the manipulation that might exist under some authoritarian model.